The movie opens in a lab where scientists inject a substance into a spider and place it in a box labeled NASA. We then see the box at NASA's DC headquarters where preparations are underway to launch a spacecraft. The mission involves sending scientists into space to conduct further experiments on the injected spiders. In the next scene we meet our protagonist Marcy, a young science reporter who covers stories about aliens and other peculiar subjects for her newspaper. While on campus she encounters a so-called UFO-obsessed couple who claim to be aliens. They express discomfort about their lives on Earth and insist they need to return to their planet Mars. Marcy, naturally skeptical, begins asking them several absurd questions. She even shows them a photo of a secret military facility in the desert, asking if that's where they landed. Upon viewing it closely, the husband is shocked and begins speaking in Russian, shouting in panic that he doesn't want to go back there. Confused by the couple's claims, Marcy reports them to her editor, believing they might have an interesting story to tell. However, her editor dismisses them as frauds and sends them away, instead suggesting Marcy cover the recent spacecraft launch and the experiments on board. Marcy feels the story is unimportant as she doesn't understand why the government would want to conduct experiments in space. Defying her editor's orders, Marcy sets out with her friends Slick and Jack to investigate the secret facility in the desert. She believes there is something significant there, especially after seeing the couple's fearful reactions and noting the electric fences surrounding the area. Meanwhile, aboard the spacecraft, scientists are injecting a substance into a spider when the spaceship suddenly encounters a solar eclipse. All systems begin to fail, terrifying the astronauts. One of them switches the engine to automatic and runs for his life. The spacecraft crashes near the facility where Marcy and her friends are investigating. Although the crash initially terrifies them, their curiosity leads them toward the crash site. There they find the bodies of the crew members horribly disfigured, with their skin marred by an unknown infection. They also encounter an astronaut who is still breathing but has half his face distorted. The trio tries to help him but to no avail. Suddenly they discover the spacecraft's captain is still alive. Before they can assist him, government officials and scientists arrive at the site, prompting the friends to quickly hide in a nearby mini cargo. While hidden, they witness a spider crawling out and laying an egg on the captain's body before vanishing, leaving the trio bewildered. Meanwhile, Gray, the project lead, and his assistant agent Murphy enter the spacecraft. Gray immediately kills a scientist who insists the surviving captain should be taken to the hospital instead of the lab. During this chaos, Murphy accidentally crushes the spider with his boot and decides to take the corpse for research. They then destroy the spacecraft with a bomb to eliminate any evidence. In the next scene, soldiers unknowingly load the dead bodies into the same truck where Marcy, Slick, and Jack are hiding. The convoy heads to an underground lab facility. Upon arrival, the soldiers begin unloading the bodies, allowing Marcy and her friends to escape and hide nearby. They observe as the surviving captain is taken into a lab. The trio sneaks into a room and is shocked by what they find: not only human samples but also caged aliens, biohazard labels, and even a preserved human head in a jar. Marcy realizes that if this news gets out it could cause widespread panic, so they begin taking pictures of everything. They then enter the room where the captain is being held. His face is severely deformed and he can barely speak. Marcy and her friends try to ask him questions, but he only manages to whisper that they must stop the mother-in-law and warns them to flee. Before they can understand his message, the captain's face suddenly bursts open and a giant spider emerges from his skull. Horrified, the trio flees the room. Seconds later, two scientists hear the commotion and enter the room, only to be equally shocked as they see the giant spider crawling toward them. The scientists try to defend themselves, but the creature suddenly attacks them by vomiting long webs. It then goes after the male scientist and brutally kills him. Meanwhile, the female scientist loses her vision due to the spider web, so she opens the lab door and tries to flee. But the creature easily catches up to her and finishes her off. At the same time, Gray arrives with his soldiers and enters the lab where the captain was kept. When he discovers the dead bodies, he quickly deduces that it's the work of the spider. He fears that the creature will wreak more havoc, so he orders the soldiers to capture it alive. Meanwhile, Marcy and her friends attempt to escape the facility but end up in a maze-like endless stairwell. As they try to navigate through it, the giant spider emerges from the ceiling and attacks Jake. It stings his leg, but Slick punches the spider and throws it downstairs. They then manage to escape through an unlocked door and find a place to rest. During this time, they notice a room labeled Project MIL, which stands for Project Mother-in-Law. Remembering the captain's dying words, the trio immediately heads inside and finds various alien species preserved in jars and subjected to scientific experiments. They also learn that the scientists have been studying the growth of their test subjects under various experimental environments. To find out more information, Jake, a computer genius, hacks into one of the devices. The other two continue investigating the room and soon come across a photo of the person Marcy had met on campus earlier. This shocks her and she finally realizes that the man was telling the truth. Meanwhile, Jake successfully hacks the system, revealing a trove of classified information. They learn that the government has been experimenting on a species of giant spider that lays eggs inside human bodies which then give birth to new offspring. The spacecraft that was sent into space was part of this experiment where aliens' DNA was injected into humans to serve as hosts for these spiders. They also discover that the experiment had to be conducted in an environment similar to that of the aliens, meaning it could only be done in space. Additionally, they uncover another shocking piece of information. If this spider bites anyone, there is no chance of survival and there is no known cure. In other words, the mortality rate is 100%. This terrifies the group, especially since Jake has been bitten and his wound is starting to bulge and spread. Realizing that he may die soon, Jake starts to panic and grabs a dissecting instrument. He then storms out of the room to kill the venomous spider for good. But sadly, due to his sudden movement, the infection quickly spreads throughout his body. Marcy and Slick chase after him only to find a trail of blood spread all over the stairs and the corridor. When they see a pool of blood with Jake's glasses and the dissecting instrument, they realize that he is no more. Overcome with grief and fear, Marcy and Slick decide to escape using the elevator, but without an access card it stops midway. They then take the stairs and eventually reach a door. Just as they open it, they come face to face with the giant spider again. Terrified, the duo steps backward only to fall into a hollow shaft below. They are now trapped in a massive spider's nest filled with endless tangles of web. The aggressive spider, spreading its alien tentacles, then crawls downward to attack them. Marcy manages to untangle herself in the nick of time and proceeds to save her friend. However, Slick appears to be stuck really badly and there's no way he can be freed. Realizing that he won't make it, he urges her to run for her life. Marcy doesn't want to leave him behind, but she doesn't have any choice. Therefore, she reluctantly obliges and flees from there with tears in her eyes. In the next scene, we see soldiers trying to find the creature, but it is stealthily killing them one by one. Amidst the chaos, Agent Murphy sees Marcy and stops her. He asks who she is and what she is doing in a restricted area. But Marcy doesn't respond to any of his questions and instead starts running away. Murphy pursues her until he catches up and they engage in a fierce fight. During the struggle, both of them fall into a pool of sauna water. This is when the large spider appears and grabs Murphy with its claws. It is about to finish him off, but Marcy grabs a nearby rod and stabs it in the eyes. The creature screams in pain and momentarily retreats, allowing the two to run away. But they face yet another setback when they learn that the doors are blocked with spiderwebs. Just then they encounter Gray, who is armed. Seeing Marcy, the head of the project becomes furious and points his weapon at her. It turns out Marcy had previously exposed Gray's secret operations in her newspaper, which enraged him to the point of digging up information on her. Now Gray wants to silence everyone in the facility to prevent the spider from following them, and he won't hesitate to kill Marcy or Murphy to achieve this. Just as he's about to open fire, however, the giant spider attacks him from behind and lays an egg inside him. Taking advantage of the distraction, Marcy and Murphy get into an elevator. As they try to escape, the spider follows them and starts attacking the elevator from below. Murphy quickly presses the button for the ground floor, causing the elevator to descend rapidly. When it finally crashes to the ground below, the spider is brutally squashed. Afterward, Marcy and Murphy emerge from the facility and return to the campus to regroup and plan their next steps. However, when they arrive, they are shocked to find Gray, who had previously been attacked by the spider. There they also discover the dead body of the newspaper editor, who appears to have been recently murdered. All of a sudden, tentacles begin to emerge from Gray's mouth and his body explodes to reveal a fully grown giant spider. Horrified, Marcy and Murphy run outside shouting for everyone to flee from the building. Panic spreads among the people as the hostile spider begins attacking and brutally killing them. Amid the chaos, Murphy spots a nearby helicopter equipped with 2 rocket launchers. This gives him an idea and he attempts to attack the spider using the launcher. Unfortunately, he misses and the creature starts chasing them. Marcy and Murphy quickly board the helicopter and decide to attack from above. They track the spider to the vicinity of the World Trade Center. Murphy flies the chopper toward it while Marcy prepares to fire. But just as she takes aim, the spider attacks their helicopter with its endless web, causing Marcy to lose her balance and fall from the vehicle. Fortunately, she is tethered with a rope connected to the helicopter's base, allowing her to regain control. She re-equips herself with the rocket launcher and fires at the spider just as it opens its mouth. This time she successfully hits her target, killing the creature for good. The movie ends with Marcy and Murphy celebrating their victory with loud cheers.